There's a stereotype about autism that I want to shatter right here, right now. That autistic people don't feel empathy. That we're cold, detached, locked away from the world. The truth? Many of us feel so deeply that it can be overwhelming, even painful. I know because I've lived it every single day. This is the first episode in a new series where we'll not only debunk myths like this one, but also confront the heartbreaking reality of what happens when autism is misunderstood, when nonverbal children are harmed, when adults are dismissed, when crimes are committed and overlooked, because the victims can't speak for themselves. We're going to talk about why education around autism, ADHD, and the entire neurodivergence spectrum is crucial, not just for awareness, but for justice. Why myths are dangerous. When the world believes someone can't feel or understand pain, their abuse gets overlooked. Their voice is dismissed. And too often, they die without justice. We're cold, detached, locked away from the world in our own heads. But here's the truth. I don't just feel what's happening around me. Sometimes I feel it so deeply that it knocks the air out of me. Other people's emotions don't just ripple through me, they crash like waves. And yet, because I don't always express those feelings in the expected way, with steady eye contact, perfect facial cues, or the right words at the right time, people have misunderstood me my whole life. This misunderstanding isn't just personal, it's systemic. And when it comes to autistic children and adults, especially those who are nonverbal, this lack of understanding can lead to neglect, abuse, and even death, with little to no accountability. This episode is the beginning of a new series here on the Mama Ray podcast called Autism Uncovered. Together, we're going to debunk myths, explore heartbreaking cases, and talk about why proper education around autism and ADHD is not just about awareness. It's about justice. Why these myths are dangerous. Let's start with this idea that autistic people lack empathy. This stereotype didn't come out of nowhere. It has roots in early autism research. Back in the mid-20th century, autism was studied by researchers like Leo Kanner and Hans Asperger. They looked at behaviors they could see, like facial expressions or the tone of voice in social interactions. Because many autistic people express emotions differently, these researchers assumed that we felt differently too, or we didn't feel as deeply at all. This became a foundational misunderstanding. Think about it. When someone doesn't cry at a funeral, the assumption is that they don't care. But what if their grief was so intense, their body literally froze? What if their way of processing was invisible to everyone else? That's what happens with autism, over and over again. Now, I want to share an experience, a personal experience. When I was a younger girl, around like 8 years old, I lost my grandfather. He was 82 years old in the summer of 1994. And even as an 8-year-old, I deeply felt that loss. It was unfathomable to me. It hurt me so deeply that I had to celebrate his memory every year during his birthday. That I had to constantly remind myself of just how his existence shaped my life and my world. I was only 8, but that was so much for me. And it hit me so hard that as an adult, I don't attend many funerals. And when I do, it's typically because I'm doing it for someone else. And even that is hard. And when I say that, I mean that in a way that it has nothing to do with me not wanting to be there to honor the one who has passed. There have been many people in my life since I was a child who have passed, and I wanted to be there. I wanted to honor their lives at their service. But the way I honor the ones I love, the memories that I have shared with them after they are long gone and I can no longer hear their voice, is very different from how everyone else chooses to do it. I don't sit near their coffins or participate in many funerals. And in fact, when it hurts too much, I can't even bring myself to attend. I send my love from a distance. And unfortunately, that weight carries on in different ways for other people. It reflects maybe a disconnect, or maybe I didn't care that much. Maybe their pain wasn't important to me at all because I wasn't there. And I could send flowers and I could write letters and I could send messages, but none of that equates to what neurotypically should be happening. I should be there at that service. I should be letting down that flower. I should be saying my goodbyes to a person's vessel that no longer reminds me of who they used to be. That's just one example of how I found my way of processing my own emotions in the world around me to be manipulated into something different, something disconnected, unfeeling, and cold. When the fact of the matter is that I'm actually shrouded in grief and pain and a loss for words, which, as someone who's considered hyperverbal, is very difficult to happen. And when it does happen, I promise you, it's because I'm in the utmost pain. So, because many autistic people express emotions differently, researchers just assumed that we felt differently too, or that we didn't feel as deeply at all. And this became a foundational misunderstanding. And the consequences aren't just hurt feelings. When the world believes autistic people don't feel pain or empathy, it affects everything. Medical care, doctors may dismiss symptoms or behaviors. Law enforcement, police might misinterpret meltdowns as aggression instead of distress. The legal system, victims are silenced because their testimony isn't understood or valued. This isn't hypothetical. I've seen it happen. I've lived it. The double empathy problem. There's a concept called the double empathy problem. That's completely changed how I understood myself and others. It says the problem isn't that autistic people lack empathy. It's that autistic and neurotypical people often misunderstand each other's signals. It's like speaking two different dialects of the same language. So, both sides care, both sides feel deeply, but the words don't translate. For example, when I'm overwhelmed, I might shut down completely. So from the outside, that looks like I don't care. But inside, I'm flooded with so many emotions, I literally cannot process or express them. This is where so much pain comes from. Families misread their autistic loved ones. Professionals misread clients or patients. And society mislabels our differences as deficits. Living with hyper-empathy. Here's what the world often misses. Many autistic people don't just have empathy, we have hyper-empathy. That means we notice subtle shifts in tone, facial expression, and even the energy in a room. Someone else's stress or sadness feels like physical weight in our body. Joy, anger, grief, we feel it all, sometimes more intensely than the person actually experiencing it. But when those feelings hit all at once, it could lead to shutdowns or meltdowns. And what do outsiders see? They see detachment. I've had moments in my life where I froze completely during a crisis. People assumed I was cold or unbothered. But inside, my heart was racing, my mind was screaming, and I was feeling everything all at once that my tongue locked. It's like standing under a waterfall of emotions, while everyone else thinks you're just standing in a light drizzle. Hyper-empathy is a gift, but it's also very exhausting. This is why so many autistic people mask. When you can sense other people's disapproval or discomfort instantly, you start mirroring them, hiding your authentic self just to make them comfortable. You become a master at people pleasing. And that's survival. But it comes at a cost. Burnout, anxiety, depression, and a deep loss of self. Why education is justice. This brings us to why I'm starting this series. Misunderstanding autism doesn't just hurt individuals. It creates systemic failures that cost lives. I've seen cases where nonverbal autistic children were abused or killed, and the crimes were brushed aside because investigators didn't know how to read the signs. Adults in institutions silenced because they were misdiagnosed or deemed unreliable witnesses. Families blamed for behaviors that were actually medical or sensory issues. These aren't rare tragedies. They're happening every day, in every community. And the only way to stop it is through education and awareness. Teachers, police officers, doctors, judges, they all need training that goes beyond stereotypes. Because when professionals understand autism, they don't just see symptoms, they see people. And when they see people, they fight for justice. A preview of what's ahead. In the coming episodes, we're going to dive deeper into these issues. We'll explore the heartbreaking cases of nonverbal children whose deaths were misclassified as accidents or neglect. We'll talk about adults who were institutionalized or mistreated because their autism wasn't recognized. And we'll highlight the voices of advocates and families who are fighting every single day to bring light to the darkness. These aren't just stories. They are calls to action. My goal is for you to leave each episode not just informed, but ready to be part of the change. If you've ever been told you were cold, unfeeling, or too much, I want you to hear this. You are not broken. You are not lacking. Your empathy, whether quiet or overwhelming, is valid. Autism is not a tragedy. Ignorance is. And together, we can rewrite the narrative, not just for ourselves, but for every child, every adult, every family who's been silenced or misunderstood. This series is my love letter to my daughter, to myself, and to every soul who deserves to be seen and heard. Thank you for joining me today. If this episode resonated with you, please share it, subscribe, leave a comment. Your support helps me continue advocating, educating, and fighting for justice on behalf of those who can't fight for themselves. This is Mama Ray, and you've been listening to Autism Uncovered on the Mama Ray podcast. Till next time, take care, and take care of those around you.